Hi, this is Dovid Orlofsky, and welcome to the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Wherever you are watching or listening to your podcast, it's certainly exciting to have you along. As always, as you can tell, we're still not back in the official Rabbi Orlofsky studio because I'm wearing my earphones. And that's not just because I've been stuck in the house with children and grandchildren for weeks, and I'm trying to block out the noise. That's not why. It's because we're not in our regular studio. And as you can see, I had to schlep all my bookcases back, put it over here to be able to continue the podcast. And what can I tell you? It's so exciting to be here. This will be my podcast before Shavuos, obviously. And we've spoken a lot about Shavuos. We spoke about it last year. We've spoken about it a few times already in a number of podcasts leading up to this. But and that's, by the way, why I put on my gold tie. I hope you appreciate that because, Rosh Hashanah is din. Din is always gold. Gold is din. Silver is rachamim. Yeah. And that's why it's Rabbi Shapiro explained once. He says the sun is din. And that's why if you look at the sun in outer space, you see nothing but a giant red, yellow ball surrounded by blackness, nothingness, because nothing can stand up to din. And that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu added in Rachamim, because otherwise the world would not be able to exist. And that's what the blue sky represents. That's why we have a blue sky around our planet. So when we see the sun, it's surrounded by blue. Blue is, of course, Rachamim. And so the red is always din, blue is Rachamim. And that's why the next time a little kid asks you, why is the sky blue? You say, it's because it's the rachamim that protects us from the din of the sun. And that's why Lasad Lavai says in the future, God will take the shemesh out from Nartika. He'll take the sun out of its container. And the Midas Hadin will then destroy all that is evil in this world. That's obviously when Mashiach comes, there'll be no more evil, there'll be no more death, and you'll have a world of din. And that's why we pass like Beis Hillel now, but in Olam Haba we'll pass like Beis Shammai because we'll be in a world of din. So a few thoughts. And that's why Rosh Hashanah is, of course, Yom HaDin, and it's a very special time of Malchus. And the Gemara tells us that there are there were more than one Rosh Hashanah, but yeah, it says that the Gemara Megillah says, you read the curses in Sefer Devarim, Parshas Kisavo, and adds Taisvus Parshas Netzavim before Rosh Hashanah to end the year with its curses. So you finish up all the year and all of its curses. I have to tell you, I was thinking about this at one point, probably when I was out at one of my Mir Pesach Minyanim, where we sit out on the porch. And I thought to myself, when I was in shul on Rosh Hashanah, saying the Sa'ad Tokef, I have to tell you, never occurred to me when I came up with words like Dever and Makeva. Because Baruch Hu was up in Shemayim thinking, yeah, let's have a plague. I have to tell you, I did not see that one coming. Yeah. And in any event, that's before that Rosh Hashanah. And then the Gemara says, you read the curses in Vayikra, i.e. Parshas B'chukosai, before Shavuos. also to end the year with its curses, which means that Shavuos is a Rosh Hashanah. That's why I'm wearing my gold tie, like I would for Rosh Hashanah. Yeah. Malchus. Din. So it's interesting. I remember hearing many years ago, actually from Rabbi Moshe Chait, when I was learning here in Chavetz Chaim in Eretz Yisrael, and he said that Rosh Hashanah is the Yom Adin for physical things, but Shavuos is the Yom Adin for spiritual things. How much Torah you're going to get this year is decided on Shavuos. You obviously have to then go and collect it, just like the parnosa that's decided that you're going to get on Rosh Hashanah, you have to go and collect it the rest of the year. But it's decided on Shavuos. The Ruchnius comes down. I heard this also echoed a number of times with Moshe Shapiro, and he would always add, and for sure your Ruchnius is much more important than your Gashmius. So there should have to be a tremendous amount of preparation that goes into Shavuos, because it's your whole soul, it's your whole Ruchnius that's on the line. So Shavuos is extremely important. And I'm not going to talk about it. I've talked about it. You go to my last year podcast and I spoke more about Shavuos. I want to talk about something else, something different. And that is that for us in Eretz Yisrael, this is a particularly significant Shavuos. You mean because people are locked in their houses, people who will daven will have to daven outside, daven v'sikin, and wake up everybody in the neighborhood? No. It's because since Shavuos comes out on Friday, it means we have a 2-day yontif. And let's face it, the only thing worse than a 2-day yontif is a 3-day yontif. We have that on occasion when first night Rosh Hashanah is Wednesday night, and even we here in Eretz Yisrael have a 3-day yontif. You people in America, it's not a big deal. You just had a 3-day yontif going in for Pesach. You people are geared up for this. Yeah. I saw somebody send around, after being locked up for, 2 months, 3-day yontifs will never bother me again. But frankly, to Israelis, 2-day yontifs are really very difficult. Very difficult. And I've often thought that 2nd-day yontif was created by the Chachamim in order to encourage Aliyah. That's definitely the reason why I moved here. It may not be the reason I moved here, but certainly the reason I stayed here. So we have a 2-day yontif. Now, I haven't seen it yet, but in past years, when this happens, they put up big posters announcing people to remember to make an Eiruv Tavshilin. Because since a 2-day yontif is such a rarity here in Eretz Yisrael, people are not geared into Eiruv Tavshilin. And, you have to remember it. Remember to have an Eiruv Tavshilin. An Eiruv Tavshilin is essentially on Erev Yontif, you take 2 matzahs or 2 challah rolls and a cooked dish, a hard-boiled egg. It seems to be the dish of choice. I'm not a hard-boiled egg aficionado. I'm not so big on eggs in general, I have to tell you. I've been traumatized because I've been on the Atkins diet since it first came out years ago. Decades ago. Yeah, it must have been, I'm close to a half a century that I've been doing that diet. And, when you get up in the morning, what are you going to eat? So you can have hard cheese, you can have eggs. I'm not going to eat flakes, You could have a big dollop of mayonnaise, So like tuna fish and mayonnaise and eggs, I've eaten those for years. I lost weight, then I gained it all back with interest, and they took out my gallbladder. Some studies suggest that It just fills your whole body with fat. You do a PET scan, so I haven't been on it, Sometimes I go into a modified Atkins, which is, you eat as much protein and fats as you want and as much carbohydrates as you want. So you have the best of, try to get in both types of diets. Just kidding on that. But, some use a hard-boiled egg. I prefer to use gefilte fish. If I have to, I will take a jarred gefilte fish because I'll let you know a little secret. I like jarred gefilte fish. I do. I don't know if you're supposed to or not. A lot of people are put off of it because of the goo in the jar. I understand that. I feel for you, but that with some like matzah, nicht schlecht. But anyway, make an Eiruv Tavshilin. And it seems like such an innocuous thing to do. And yet, when I was in NCSY, so we used to make on Chol Hamoed Pesach for our region a big Great Adventures trip during Chol Hamoed Pesach. That's because Great Adventure during Chol Hamoed Pesach has what they call Jew Day, which is one day which is given over to the Jews. Now, you don't have to be a Jew to come, but I think there's a discount for Jewish groups, and they have a kosher pavilion where you can get kosher for Pesach food. It's not a large selection, but you can get a kosher for Pesach Coke for like $10. You can get a bag of kosher for Pesach potato chips for $25. You can get a kosher for Pesach hot dog for $50. And it's packed. And I don't know why, because it's either in March or April. It's freezing out. It's almost always raining. But everyone comes because it's a Great Adventure Day and everybody has to be there. So amusement parks, as I've mentioned in the past, hold no particular delight for me under the best of circumstances. Strap yourself into a machine that's going to hurl you upside down, backwards, 100 miles an hour. Like that holds any appeal for you. Yeah. I live in Yerushalayim. I could just take a taxi and have the same experience. I don't have to wait online for it, But, so I'm in the office coordinating the buses, because Jews can never respond on time. When they have those deadlines, early bird special, and then this deadline and the final deadline, and it doesn't help. People are calling at the last minute. Do you have any rooms left? Yeah, sure. Few and far between are the programs where they start taking out ads. We are sold out. Don't bother coming yet. I've always wanted to call after I saw one of those ads. Because someone told me a story that when the Panovich Rav opened the Panovich Yeshiva, he couldn't get an enrollment. So he took out an ad in all of from newspapers. The registration is closed for the Panovich Yeshiva. And so people started calling, can I get my son in? Can I get this one or that? He put in the ad, they definitely were not closed. They had nobody. Because there's a rule that everybody wants to go where nobody wants them. In the famous words of Groucho Marx, I wouldn't join a club that would have me as a member. Everybody wants to get in some place where they're not wanted. Any place where they want you, you have to be suspicious. Yeah. So I'm there at the last minute answering messages on the phone, the phone recorder. Before they had email, just leave messages on the answering machine, listening to it. Can you save me 2 spots? Can you save me a spot? We're trying to work out the buses, So a couple of the kids came in to help me. 2 of my NCSY kids, a boy and a girl, each of whom came from a family that was, if not anti-Jewish, certainly not supportive. Not supportive. And both of these kids had to go and basically make their house Pesach. Yeah. And it's a big deal. It's a big deal when so nobody was fighting them, but nobody was, necessarily helping them, Anyway, the guy comes in, walks in the office, puts his head in his hands. He says, I can't believe it. I said, what happened? He said, I was almost there. I was almost there. They let me kasha everything. Yeah. They let me cover everything. Let me buy whatever I needed. I got the matzahs that I wanted. I got them to buy from a different butcher for Pesach. I got, everything. And they went along and they told me I could run the Seder however I wanted, We were all set. And then Erev Pesach, my mother sees me taking 2 matzahs and a hard-boiled egg and putting it in a little plastic bag. She says, what's that? I said, nothing, Mom. She says, no, what is it? He says, it's something you got to do. It's nothing. Says, no, tell me what it is. It's called an Eiruv Tavshilin. You see, you can't really cook from Yontif to Shabbos, but if you have an Eiruv Tavshilin, it lets you cook on Yontif for Shabbos. And she said, that's it. I've had it. Till here. And she totally lost it. It's amazing. I mean, everybody has their breaking point, but this was this guy's mother's breaking point, it was Eiruv Tavshilin. And the girl, her face turns white, looks at him and says, my parents too. As soon as I went to make an Eiruv Tavshilin, they went crazy. And I'm thinking to myself, who would have guessed that the most emotional issue in Judaism is an Eiruv Tavshilin? Can you think of anything more innocuous than an Eiruv Tavshilin? Well, since we're on the topic, I bring you a Chazal. Yeah? The Chazal says the following. Amar Avinu kept the entire Torah, including Eiruv Tavshilin. Strange sentence. Why not say he kept all of the Torah, including the D'Rabbanans? He kept the entire Torah and Shabbos candles. Yeah? Why would you pick out, of all things, Eiruv Tavshilin? It's like a strange thing. So let's talk about Eiruv Tavshilin. Eiruv Tavshilin is obviously a din d'Rabbanan. Basically, every Erev is, unless you hold Chuma d'Oraisa, Okay. But Erev is from the word of mixture. Vayi Erev, Vayi Boker. Erev is chaos and mixture. Boker is order. Erev is always mixing things together. La'arev, to mix up a pot. Yeah? When you make an Erev around your city, and this is one of the big mistakes people make. The poles with the string is not your Erev. The poles with the string is in order to make a walled courtyard around your city. Right? Because if I live in a courtyard with 4 other houses and we all share a common courtyard, and there's a wall that encloses the entire courtyard, is it Rishus HaYachid Mid'Oraisa? Of course it is. If I throw from the Rishus HaRabim into the Rishus HaYachid, I'm definitely chayiv. That is a violation of Shabbos. It's a real Rishus HaYachid. It's got 4 walls. It's closed in. The Chachamim do not allow you to carry there unless you make an Erev, where you mix together all the houses. So everybody in the house contributed some money, all the 4 houses, and they buy a loaf of bread, or a box of matzahs, and they keep it in one house, and that's how everything mixes together. Yeah? If you're doing it in a mavoi, which is the different courtyards would open up into a side street, that's closed on three sides. So you have to make a tikkun mavoi. You have to put a stick there or make a doorway. So really what people call an Eiruv is just a series of doorways going all the way around the area you want to make the Eiruv. The Eiruv is the box of matzahs that they keep in the shul on behalf of all the Jews in that area, so that we're all mitarev. It's an Eiruv, is that it mixes us all together. So what's Eiruv Tavshilin? So they don't want you preparing on Yontif for any other day. But if I'm going from Yontif into Shabbos, how do I light Shabbos candles? When I light the Shabbos candles, it's still Yontif, and it's for Shabbos. How do I heat up the food? How do if I want to bake something or cook something? Remember, there was no freezers back then. You know, you made everything fresh. Gemara Beya, which discusses Yontif, another name for the Masechta is Hilchos Yontif. I should say Masechtas Yontif. They say that one of the things you're allowed to do in Yontif is shecht an animal, because you don't expect me to eat day-old meat. So we, of course, they shecht an animal someplace in South America. They freeze it. You get it 6 months later. You know what I mean? You defrost it, you cook it. You don't know any different. So you know the difference between 1 day old meat, 2 day old meat, you know. But you know, the ability to prepare, I have stuff that I have to do for Shabbos. Heat up the soup, maybe cook the soup. If it's a 3-day yontif and you had 2 days yontif, then going into Shabbos, forget about it. You know, they have gemachim for freezers and refrigerators. Very few people have a refrigerator big enough to hold all this. Nancy Pelosi, I think, does, but for the most part, most people don't have that size of a refrigerator, so you have to prepare the stuff beforehand. Yeah, on Yontif for Shabbos. So we make an Eiruv. What's that Eiruv? We start preparing on the weekday for Shabbos because we're going to eat this on Shabbos. Our 2 matzahs or our 2 rolls with our egg or our gefilte fish or salami, whatever it is. Yeah. So if you start preparing for Shabbos Erev Yontif, you can continue preparing on Yontif and go into Shabbos. Rav Noach Weinberg once said something that has been quoted many times by many people. We Jews have been accused of everything. We've been accused of being God killers, you know, host desecration. We would capture the wafer from the church and torture it. You know, we were communists. We were capitalists. You know, we drink baby's blood. Whatever you want, we are it. There's only one thing they've never accused us of, and that's being stupid. So there's got to be something deep going on over here. There always is. So the Maharal explains, what does it mean Avram Avinu kept everything, including Eiruv Tavshilin? That's what he says. He says, because his life was Eiruv Tavshilin. His life was Eiruv Tavshilin. What does that mean? Pirkei Avos we learned in the 5th parak. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tested Avraham with 10 tests to show how beloved Avraham was. What was the 10th test? So most of the Rishonim say it was the Akedas Yitzchak, bringing his son up on the mountain to slaughter him. And Rabbeinu Yonah says it was after he came back from the Akedah and had to buy a grave for Sarah and had to deal with Ephron. That was even worse than the Akedah. You have to deal with a crook. But in any event, whichever one of those you see is the 10th test, that was at the age of 137. Now he's done. He dies at 175. That's almost 40 years later. What did he do for the next 40 years? He didn't have any tests. He just racked up points. He did whatever he did, and he got credit for it without being tested. So, I remember when the first video game came out, it was called Pong. And you had two little people there, they had paddles on the screen. You had to bounce the ball back and forth, trying to get it out, When it first came out, one of the places that got the game complained that it wasn't working. So the guy went and he realized that it was so jammed with quarters, they didn't think they'd have to empty it that quickly. So that, once video games came on, so forget about it, nobody cared anymore. But before that, the big thing was pinball. Yeah. There was a big table with lights and bumpers, and things would light up, and you'd have to get to the things, you'd pull back the ball and shoot it, and it would go bing, 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 and you'd flip it, and you'd shoot it all around, and if you could light up everything, you hit everything and could light everything up, then you activated the well. There's this hole in the middle. And if the ball landed in the well, forget about it. It just sat there and collected points. Jing, 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 and you just sat there and racked up all the points. That was obviously what you were shooting for, to be able to just rack up all the points. Avram Avinu, for the last part of his life, he had the ball in the well and he was just racking up the points. Jing, 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 jing. He was preparing while he still was being tested. And once he was able to prepare during those 10 tests, for the rest of his life, when there were no tests, he still continued to get schar. That was like Yativ. And then he got all of those points and took it with him to Shabbos, which is Olam Haba. What about us? The Gemara says nobody was allowed to convert to Judaism during the reign of Dovid and Shlomo. Why? Because when everyone knows that it's cool to be a Jew, what's the big deal? I remember when Senator Lieberman was running for vice president, and he was an Orthodox Jew. He used to say, I'm going to work on this campaign 24/6. Shabbos, I don't work. And it's not 100% true, he would go to shuls, Someone told me that they made a kiddush for him in Miami, and he was walking the shul, and he was used to walking miles. He'd have to sometimes go to the Capitol to vote, and Shabbos. He was used to walking a lot, and he does the whole big walk, to the shul in the Miami heat, not the team, the heat. And his Secret Service agents are like, schwitzing away there. They're not used to this. And he davens in shul, and then they take him up to the Kiddush first. So the Secret Service people go up to secure the perimeters. 10-4, we're over here, 6-8, Operation Lieberman, whatever it was. They all get up there. And he goes up to the Kiddush first. And when davening ends, everyone goes up to the Kiddush. And they suddenly hear this thundering on the stairway. So instinctively, the Secret Service men form a phalanx around their man to take a bullet. And the shul comes running up and run right to the food. But when Lieberman came out and he says, I'm an Orthodox Jew, suddenly everybody started coming out of the woodworks. Everybody was a Jew. I used to read articles by Charles Krauthammer. I didn't know who he was. I assumed he was like an Austrian or a German, Krauthammer, And when Lieberman started running, So he says, people don't understand why he's in a national campaign and yet he won't work on Shabbos. He says, let me describe for you Shalosh Shudas at my grandfather's house. I had no idea he was Jewish. People suddenly started coming out. This guy shows up and says, well, I'm not Jewish, but I was a Shabbos guy. He's not flying from the woodwork. Yeah. So could you imagine when Dovid and Shlomo Melech runs the entire world? Now you want to become a Jew? No way. The Gemara tells the story of Onkelos. Onkelos was the nephew of the Roman emperor. And he calls up different characters in history to ask them about what's happening in the next world, and he figures out that Judaism is the truth. He decides he was going to convert to Judaism, but at the time it was punishable by death. So he figures, okay, I gotta be smart about this. So he writes his uncle, the emperor, and he says, listen, I want to go into business. I want to make my fortune. So he says, why? My storehouse is open to you. He says, I know. My treasure house is open to you. He says, I know, but I want to make it on my own. Give me some advice. He says, okay, buy low, sell high. Can't go wrong. If I would have, they said, they did a study that if you would have put $5,000 into Amazon 20 years ago, it would be worth $2 million today. Just give me a moment to reflect on bad decisions I've made during my life. But anyway, so I invested in a different stock and I lost everything. But because Amazon. But anyway, so he says, buy low, sell high. So he converts to Judaism. So when the king hears about this, he's not happy. And he writes to his nephew, he says, how could you do this? He says, I took your advice. I couldn't find anything more devalued in the world than Judaism. So when Mashiach comes, I'm going to sell it going to sell out big. Well, the emperor didn't think this was very funny, and he sent a phalanx of soldiers to come and bring him back, and Onkelos converted them, and this happened 3 times, and afterwards the king just gave up because he was running out of soldiers, and he just decided to disinherit him. And that's why his name is Uncle-less. I'm just kidding on that. But anyway, so buy low, sell high. See, join the Jews when it's, It says the same thing in being Moshe Mashiach. Once Mashiach comes, everybody sees the truth. Now you want to become a Jew. It don't work that way. Yeah? But if you do it now, and to be a firm Jew, is to be lonely and despised, looked down upon. The mayor of New York can do nothing but attack Orthodox Jews. We're the only problem in the entire world. There are people gathering every place, going everywhere together, but they made a minion, let's go get them. We're the problem. We're always the problem. Everybody, and now you decide you want to become a firm Jew? Ooh. If you do it now, then you can continue to do it in Yemos Mashiach. And get the same schar for it that you get now. So now you got to get up in the morning, go to Dovid, it's very hard. Now you have to drive from New York to Florida. After we passed, I think Richmond, we were like driving, looking for someplace to get kosher food, and so someone looked up online and it said, basically from Baltimore to Miami, it's a kosher desert. Lordy. Yeah. So now I can't stop in. Go to the rest stop for gas. There's a Roy Rogers, there's an Arby's. There's some other place, fast food joint. Can't go there. Can't go. Have to be kosher. When Mashiach comes, it's going to be hard to find treif. You'll hear people going, schwer zu sein, guy. You know, everything's been going our way. You want to become a Jew now? It doesn't work that way. But if you do it now when it's hard, but you may have whole, then when Mashiach comes, which is compared to Yontif, you can continue doing mitzvahs then and get the same schar as you do now. And if you do, then you'll be able to enjoy it on Shabbos and Olam Haba, all the schuyas that you got. What Yemos Mashiach is the Machlekes in the Gemara, but Shmuel says it's the same thing as now. It's just going to be a different political situation. The Gemara in Sukkah says they'll take out the Yetzer Hara and Shechta. That means you're going to be doing mitzvos and you'll have no Yetzer Hara. Nothing holding you back. No little devil on your shoulder saying, "Ooh, don't you want it?" Nope. Just a little angel. And you'll get the same schar that you get now. That's Eiruv Tavshilin. If we do what we're supposed to do now when it's hard, then once Mashiach comes and it's easy, we just put the little ball in the hole and it goes jing, 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 jing. That's the Eiruv Tavshilin. Like I say, we here in Israel don't get much of an opportunity. But this year, on Erev Shavuos, when we make our Eiruv Tavshilin, remember, all the effort you put in now will allow you, when it's clean and green, as we used to say back in the 70s on our CBs, when things are easy, you'll get the same schar that you get now. So let's take advantage of the tests and opportunities that Kadosh Baruch Hu sends us now. Because as it says in Pirkei Avos, Lefum Tzara Agra, according to the effort is the reward. And in Mirza Hashem, as we come now to the end of time, and I mentioned this in an earlier podcast, if there's one thing that coronavirus taught us is that expect the unexpected, believe the unbelievable. If I told you I could snap my fingers and close down the entire world, you'd say to me, it's impossible. Turns out it's not. So Mashiach can come just like that. So let's do everything we can now so that we can keep going the most Mashiach when we'll have no Yetzer Hara and nobody fighting us. And then when the world is in its perfection, Olam Haba, and as the Ramchal explains, that means Chiyas Amesim in this world, we'll be able to enjoy everything that we've earned in that process. Mitzvah Hashem. And that's it. I wish you have a wonderful Yontif. And if you want to find out more about the show, you can go on my website, RabbiOrlofsky.com. You can sponsor an episode, you can comment, you can do all kinds of things. Yeah. And that's it. We'll see you after Yontif. This is Dovid Orlofsky, and this is the Rabbi Orlofsky Show.
It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Torah and Simcha, ready to go. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Knowledge and wisdom will help you grow. Lots of fun in every episode, and we don't have to rhyme. No, we don't. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show on RabbiOrlofsky.com. Torah anytime, YouTube and more. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Torah and Simcha, ready to go. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Till next time, till we meet again. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show.